Hey out there, and welcome to Let's Play Aria of Sorrow. I'm your host, Vicarious Brian, and we're going to be playing Castlevania. Really one of my favorite games from the past decade or so. Aria of Sorrow is, I believe, it was really the first Metroidvania on the Castlevania side after Symphony of the Night. I could be wrong there. But, so we're going to be putting in Brian, because that is my name. But if you guys aren't familiar with Metroidvanias, it's basically a game that is generally two-dimensional, has a focus on exploration, generally exploring one distinctive location like a castle or like a cave system or planet. And you, instead of just moving, left to right like you might think of generally in a 2D platformer or something, there's a lot of verticality, and you generally upgrade your main character through new equipment, technology, or abilities to access new areas of the map. Super Metroid was a popular Metroidvania. The name comes from combining Metroid and Castlevania, of course, but I'm assuming you guys are already generally familiar with that. So basically what happens is we are Soma Cruz, and with our friend Mina, we went to this shrine in Japan in 2035. And essentially what happened is there's an eclipse, and we are transported to this strange castle. And here we are waking up. And this is Genya Arikado, who is apparently pretty blunt, but Soma's cool with it. You can't let people push you around like that, Soma. That's no good. So Arikado's trying to figure out how we got here, why we're here. Apparently it's Dracula's castle. And as Genya just said, we're inside of an eclipse. Sort of an interesting situation. Soma actually mentions earlier, he says, well, what are we in Eastern Europe? And Arikado responds by saying, no, we're in the eclipse. And yet, so apparently what I found interesting about that is Soma clearly knows about Dracula and that he's in Eastern Europe traditionally, but I'm not really sure if within this world Dracula is the same book character that we know in our world, or perhaps everyone knows about Dracula and how the Belmonts are constantly fighting them throughout the years. It's, obviously it's never really explained. Castlevania doesn't have a ton of information on the background lore, as far as I know anyway. So here Soma Cruz has discovered his ability to absorb these souls of different creatures within this castle. Arikado says that Soma should go to the master chamber. He'll take care of Mina, who's since passed out. And that's pretty much it. There are a few other plot points that come up later on, but for the most part, you're just supposed to go to this castle chamber, or the master chamber, to get everyone out of the castle. Now I mentioned Soma has the ability to get souls. That is the main mechanic through which we will be able to explore new areas of the map. There are actually 3 types of souls that are used in this game. Now I can't remember all the names, but there's red, blue, and yellow, as you can see here. Our first soul is Winged Skeleton, which is a red soul, which is called a bullet soul, I believe. And these are your basic magic abilities where you can, throw spears or axes or shoot lightning from your hands or things like that. General attack magic. Now, yellow souls are generally passive, and often they'll be like a stat up. Here we have our first weapon, a short sword, which really is better for its range than its damage increase. So yellow souls, it'll be like +4 strength or +12 intelligence, just passive upgrades like that. There are a few interesting ones. Undini allows you to walk on water, which will be very helpful later on. And then the final type of soul is blue, and again I can't remember, it might be Guardian, a Guardian soul, but the color is blue and you basically hold the right trigger down and it gives you an effect. This can range from like changing into a manticore and just doing a ton of damage to an enemy, or it can also be something like the flying armor soul that we'll be getting in a little bit, and this basically allows you to fall slower, which will help you later on in the game trying to get by large chasms and things like that. So what I'm doing here, I know the game pretty well, so I know that I can't go down this way yet. I would need the Undini spell or the double jump soul. But there is tasty meat here, and I wanted to explore the map down here a little bit just so I remember where I am. I'm actually not going to 100% the game or complete it or anything like that. It's pretty quick to do. I think it's better just to stick to the basics. I'm not gonna farm souls or anything like that. Although I will be getting the best ending, which does necessitate that you get a few specific souls and do a few things specifically. But if I don't get them naturally, I'll just do it off camera if you guys want. Now, as far as my early game plan, I would like to get an axe armor soul. It's a pretty good early game soul, but not really necessary. The soul drop rates in this game are pretty low, so it's really hard to plan on getting any soul. Axe armor would be good now, as would the lightning doll soul later on. So there's a few that I know are good souls that I would enjoy getting, but you can't really bank on having anything specific. The game is not too hard. I could probably finish it without using souls. But it's always nice to have. Actually, back there we got our first... Oh, well, I think it's technically a soul that you get from like a capsule or something like that, but it's under the abilities, which you can actually turn on and off. I'm not sure why you would want to turn any off, other than I'm not sure why you'd want to turn any off, but you can. And the Gravekeeper soul allows us to backdash. So this is good, obviously, for dodging attacks and things like that. And we'll equip this cape. But it's also good for attack canceling. Some of the weapons have a long animation, so it's nice to be able to attack and then backstep right away, so you don't have to stick around to finish the attack animation. I mean, Area of Sorrow isn't necessarily a difficult game or anything, so you don't really have to get that in depth with the attack canceling, things like that, but it's just one of the higher level strategies, I guess you could say. But for the most part, not a very difficult game. Alright. No soul from him. That is unfortunate. It's not really necessary, but it's just... I like to get an easily spammable soul early on. Just for something to have, because the winged skeleton soul is okay, but it's really nothing to write home about. Even a skull archer would be nice. But that is actually a boss door, so this is our first boss of the game. It's actually gonna be just a regular enemy later on, but for now, it's hard enough to be a boss. And this one's actually good to use the skeleton, or the winged skeleton spell on, because it hits twice. I don't know if you guys saw that. That's always helpful. But yeah, pretty easy. Not a difficult boss by any stretch of the imagination. I actually missed out. Oh well. I missed out on the thing that he dropped. That just refills your health and your magic, basically. I think it's called magic. HP and MP. But you also notice that we leveled up there, which is helpful like it is in any game, but in Metroidvanias, or rather this game specifically, level ups aren't too important. You don't get any new spells or skills in this game from a level up. It's just added attack, defense, HP, and MP, so nothing too crazy. The reason why that is because it is a Metroidvania. If you just got new items and new abilities from leveling up, it would kind of break the game. You wouldn't have to go to certain areas to get those spells, so you'd be able to get to the end game content just by level grinding, which doesn't really bode well for the kind of game that Metroidvanias are. So level ups are more of just a passive thing. You never have to grind in this game as far as I can remember. So it's kind of nice. Although I admit it might be cool to have a few spells that you could learn from leveling up, but that's okay. So here's the flying armor soul that I was talking about earlier, which basically lets you fall slower when you hold down the right trigger. It does use magic, but not too much, and it is necessary, like I said, to explore more areas of the castle. So I actually did a short test run of this earlier, and I actually got lost. Like I said, I do know the game pretty well, but it's more of a general background knowledge. Like, I don't have a set path for getting to where I need to go. For the most part, the game paces itself very well, and at no point, even in my first playthrough, did I ever really feel like I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. It's always pretty apparent, as it generally is in Metroidvanias, where you need to go, because you'll notice, oh, I just got this new ability, and I can use it in this area. So it makes itself pretty apparent. So kudos for them on some of the level design. I think it's Konami that does this game. Not entirely sure though. Alright, and we can actually skip this guy, but even though I probably wouldn't use this soul, I like to have a few extra souls. Just a good thing to have. Later on specifically, there's a soul that passively will increase your stats depending on how many souls you have. Awesome. Great. Okay, so that was lucky. We have the axe armor soul now. It's kind of expensive for this point in the game, but definitely a cool weapon to have. Very good. And I completely lost my train of thought. That's okay though. I'm sure it wasn't too important. These skeleton knights are terrible because I always think that I can duck under their swing, their sword swing like that, but that is not true. They just barely nick you, so you have to abuse some of that backstep ability. So the cool thing with the axe armor spell, is that if you get the spacing just right, you can hit the enemy twice really quick and not have to wait for it to come back to hit the enemy. So there's a few little tricks that you can do as far as souls are concerned that way. The strongest soul in the game, actually, Red Minotaur, has a similar thing where if you use it how you normally would, you hit the enemy once with this giant axe, essentially. But if you use it while standing backwards, you hit him twice, and with a soul that strong, it's really a big difference. So, just a few little gameplay mechanic-y things, I guess, that I thought were worth mentioning. As far as not game-related stuff, I actually am pretty excited. I got, and I can't remember the item number or anything like that, unfortunately. If you're interested, I can let you guys know. But I got a spider mount for my mic the other day, so I'm pretty excited about that. I think it might be like SP01 or something, but like I said, not sure. Essentially what that is it's a metal casing with rubber cables, which keeps... What did I just pick up? An item, okay. Right, so we'll use that. With rubber attached to the microphone, and what it basically does is if I like bang into my desk or anything. It used to be really loud. I tried to edit it out most of the time, but there are times when you're not going to catch it. So this is going to stop all that. For example, right now, I'm shaking my desk pretty hard, and hopefully, and I did test it, so I'm pretty sure you guys won't be able to hear it. So it's pretty nice. It's not going to increase the quality of the audio overall, but what it will do is make editing easier for me and make sure that I don't miss any of those audio spikes. Alright, so I figure every time we'll get an armor, I'll at least show it off. This is the bat, or sorry, I meant soul, not armor. This is the bat soul. It's pretty terrible. It's got terrible range. Well, it actually does okay damage. That actually looks like the same damage the axe armor does. So it's decent damage, I guess, but overall not that great. Although it is cheap. I will give it that. It is cheap. I feel like I'm going to be saying soul a lot during this run through. I can already feel my voice getting annoyed with myself. Because it's definitely a soul-filled game, that is for sure. Alright, and here we pick up our first armor, a leather plate, which is going to increase our defense by 5. That's pretty solid. That is pretty solid. Wow, okay, so we have a zombie soldier soul. Man, this is very bizarre. So it throws a grenade. That's actually a pretty good soul. We might play with that one for a little bit. Yeah, so that does about twice the damage of the axe armor soul. Maybe a little bit under. But that's really bizarre. One of my slight complaints about the game is I think the soul drop rate is just a little low, especially on certain enemies. But I'm having immense luck this playthrough. Also, if you guys want to see me use or try to utilize any souls that I get over the playthrough, let me know. I'll try and incorporate, you know, this or that soul into my gameplay style if you guys are interested. I'm trying to remember what area we're going. I think right now we're in like the outer halls or something like that. But I think we're trying to... Wow. Man, that's bizarre. I actually wouldn't mind getting a zombie soul. If I remember correctly, it makes it so when you're poisoned, instead of... I'm trying to remember, I think poisoning lowers your damage, but when you're poisoned and you have the zombie soul, it adds to your damage from your melee attack. So that'd be pretty nice to have. Not that there's a lot of poison enemies in the game or anything. So I think we're supposed to be going to the... Oh no, I know where we're going. Okay. So I believe the next boss is going to be a manticore, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong. That's not really spoilers or anything. Also, I mean, if you guys want, I can not tell you about, you know, future bosses, but the manticore is not plot related or anything like that. It's just a random boss, sort of like the creaking skeleton that we fought earlier. But you know, I will be avoiding, if I can, any plot related spoilers during this playthrough. But I think that's going to be it for today, guys. I'm hoping that next time we'll be fighting that manticore that I was talking so much about. I hope you guys had a good time. Let me know if you have any questions or comments, and I'll see you next time.